I am not leading this fight as a matter of aesthetic pleasure. I am leading because somebody must lead, or else the fight would not be made at all.
Wild horses at Theodore Roosevelt National Park remains uncertain. Park officials are considering either reducing the population of horses significantly or removing them from the park entirely.
The state lawmakers voiced support for trying to keep the horses at the park at a Dickinson Chamber of Commerce event.
It would be a tragedy to lose something that does draw and has a lot of tourism draw for the state of North Dakota.
In 2023, on April 13th, the MHA Nation passed a resolution titled Supporting the Free Running of the Wild Horse Herd at Theodore Roosevelt National Park. This resolution is exciting news for horse enthusiasts and wildlife conservation groups, as it signifies that the MHA Nation is striving to negotiate with the National Park Service to protect the lives of the wild horses living in the TRNP Theodore Roosevelt National Park area and prevent their complete removal. This resolution brings hope for the fate of these magnificent wild horses and adds suspense to the story. Theodore Roosevelt National Park is one of the few national parks where visitors can observe free-roaming horses. The park is located in the western part of North Dakota in the United States. The governor, Doug Burgum, and others noted that these wild horses have been roaming the park since before its establishment in 1947. We can't help but wonder what has happened in Theodore Roosevelt National Park and why these wild horses that have lived in the park for over 70 years are facing the risk of being removed. To understand the reasons behind this, we must delve into the history of Theodore Roosevelt National Park and the MHA Nation. The park is named after President Theodore Roosevelt. It is the only American national park named directly after a single person, who is known for his conservation efforts and his love of the outdoors. The area that is now the park was once home to several Native American tribes, including the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara. These three tribes comprise the MHA Nation, which is recognized as a sovereign nation with a government-to-government relationship with the federal government. It has its own tribal government and exercises a degree of autonomy in managing its internal affairs, such as law enforcement, education, and economic development. The tribe also has the power to negotiate with the federal government on matters such as land use, natural resource management, and the delivery of government services. In the late 1800s, the land was settled by ranchers and homesteaders who grazed cattle and sheep on the rangelands. In 1901, Theodore Roosevelt visited the area to hunt bison and was struck by the beauty of the Badlands. He later purchased the Maltese Cross Ranch and became a cattle rancher himself. He also worked to conserve the natural resources of the area and established the U.S. Forest Service and several national parks and monuments during his presidency. Theodore Roosevelt National Park was established in 1947, in part to honor the legacy of President Roosevelt and his conservation efforts. The park was created by combining several existing national monuments and includes 3 units: the North Unit, the South Unit, and the Elkhorn Ranch Unit. The park is home to a diverse array of wildlife, including horses, bison, elk, bighorn sheep, and prairie dogs. It also has a rich cultural history, with evidence of human habitation in the area dating back over 11,000 years. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum said that, fewer than 200 horses are free roaming in the park's 46,158-acre South Unit, an area equivalent to 72 square miles. He said that, for decades and decades, these horses have existed peacefully in the park, serving as an indelible symbol of the untamed Badlands. However, two United States government agencies, the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service, were claimed by some advocacy groups and individuals that they had worked to destroy America's wild horse and burro herds for decades. At the same time, in April of 2022, the National Park Service developed a livestock management plan for the Theodore Roosevelt National Park, which presented three different alternatives, either reducing it from 158 to 35 to 60 horses or eliminating the horse herd entirely. Isn't it the National Park Service's and the TRNP's mission to protect the park's natural, cultural, and scenic resources? Then why have they proposed such a cruel plan to remove these historically significant wild horses? Another fact is that these animals are non-native species that have been introduced to America and have significant impacts on the range ecosystem they inhabit. In addition, wild horse populations can grow quickly and exceed the carrying capacity of their habitat, leading to overgrazing, soil erosion, and other ecological impacts. The National Park Services have a complex and challenging task in managing the wild horse populations in their care. To address these issues, the National Park Services have implemented a variety of management strategies, including contraceptives, low-stress capture techniques, genetic research, and partnership with nonprofit horse advocacy groups. These strategies are intended to balance the need for the wild horse populations with the needs of the surrounding ecosystems and other wildlife species. The TRNP also publicly shared their perspective. While past perspectives focused on managing for a historic scene, park priorities are to manage the species, resources, and ecosystems that are native to the landscape of the park. Obviously, some advocates disagree with the specific management practices employed by these agencies. They want the wild horses in Theodore Roosevelt National Park to be allowed to stay in the park. Chasing Horses, Wild Horse Advocates is a nonprofit organization that advocates for the humane treatment and preservation of wild horses on public lands. They represent the people of North Dakota and claim that there are valid historical, scientific, cultural, and economic facts that support what they are asking from the park. Simultaneously, the recent FOIA documents shared from American Wild Horse Campaign also call into question the lack of transparency and accountability from Theodore Roosevelt National Park management. This is a message left by a concerned individual on social media regarding the incident. It's disgusting to see them round up wild horses on their land and sell them to slaughter. But hey, it's easy money for them. From the message, we can infer that there seems to be improper transactions involving the sale of wild horses in the park, which has led to their slaughter. As early as 1971, the government enacted the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act to protect and manage wild, free-roaming horses and burros on public lands in the United States. The act was passed in response to concerns about the dwindling populations of wild horses and burros, which were being hunted and captured for commercial purposes. Unfortunately, the horses in Theodore Roosevelt National Park do not fall under the Protection of Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act because they are not considered to be a native species and are descended from domesticated animals. They are considered feral rather than wild and are managed differently than wild horses and burro populations that fall under the protection of the Act. Since the proposal of the Livestock Management Plan, many organizations have made significant efforts to resist the plan in order to protect these animals. One international animal protection organization called In Defense of Animals studied all the issues related to the proposed plan and what TRNP will and will not accept as input from public comments. In their letter to MHA, they summarized the most relevant points and included the references the MHA requires to allow consideration. They also urged the public to sign letters in support of their cause. Chasing Horses wild horse advocates have also done a lot of work. They called on their members and the public to leave a message on North Dakota Congressman Kelly Armstrong's Facebook page and send emails to raise awareness with the federal government. In fact, not only these advocates, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, North Dakota Governor Mr. Doug Burgum is also an opponent of this proposal. He asked park officials to work in collaboration with the state to find a solution that would allow the horses to stay while protecting the park's ecosystem. You might not be able to imagine the enormous economic benefits that TRNP brings to North Dakota. Sarah Ott Coleman, North Dakota's tourism director, said, "The horses are a major tourist attraction. Last year, there were more than 770,000 trips to the park, more than half of them from non-residents," Ott Coleman said. Billings County, which includes Medora, generated $16 million from tourism spending. With such substantial benefits, in any case, the North Dakota government has no reason not to save the lives of these horses. It appears that the story is becoming clearer as it progresses, and the fate of these wild horses is not in their own hands, but in the hands of humans who are conflicted with multiple interests. Each party seems to have sufficient grounds to decide whether these horses should live or die. We hope that the voices from all departments and organizations can be heard and that a balance can be achieved. But we are aware that this balance requires more time to verify and digest. In terms of universal values, I believe that life is supreme. If you are still with us, please share your thoughts in the comments and support us by liking and subscribing.